Hi, my name is Samantha Swan, and today I will be talking to you about Pour Your Heart Into It by Chairman and CEO of Starbucks. I chose this book because after researching for some good autobiographies, Pour Your Heart Into It kept showing up on Amazon, Google, and even you recommended it. In the future, I do want to own my own bar, and although coffee and alcohol is a little different, it's still the same concept. Selling beverages. Overall, I truly enjoyed this book. Howard Schultz proves that his company is caring, they focus on sustainability and value in the workplace. He is the definition of the true American dream, where he started from the bottom and worked his way all the way to the top. He proves that the profits and the number of locations are not the most important thing to how successful your company is, but how happy your employees are. How much you care for them, what you offer them, and if they're just generally happy. They're the first encounter for your customers, and if you don't have a happy workforce, then your company will not. What some may not know is that Howard Schultz was not actually the founder of Starbucks, but he did make it the legacy that it is today by introducing the dark roasting beans, the espresso, the coffee machines, and the whole brand image that it is. The book begins with a quote by Howard Schultz that sets the precedent for the entire novel. Care more than others think wise, risk more than others think safe, dream more than others think practical, and expect more than others think possible. He began with the story of when his father broke his ankle. His father always worked blue-collar jobs and was always in and out of work, but when he broke his ankle, him and his family didn't have anything to fall back on. They didn't have a health insurance plan. They weren't bringing any income in because the mom didn't work. Schultz says that looking back on time, he really did respect his father, and his father is what made him who he is today, a hardworking, driven man. But when he was younger, he clashed a lot because he thought his father never did enough for his family. Schultz and his family grew up in the projects of New York. Because of his experiences there, he knew a lot about diversity because of everyone he lived with in that neighborhood. One of his biggest accomplishments in high school was making the varsity football team, where he earned his letterman's jacket. But the next day at school, all of his teammates were going to be wearing their letterman's jacket. His mother did not have enough money to afford the $29 jacket, so he had to borrow it from friends so he wasn't left out. Later on in life, his father died from lung cancer, and this is where he realized he didn't want to leave any employee behind. His father died and had no pensions, nothing to leave his family, and Schultz knew from that time on that every employee that worked at Starbucks would be taken care of. He got a football scholarship and went to Northern Michigan University, where he played only for a couple years. He studied communications and was a B average, but when he left college, he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. He felt like college didn't really prepare him any. His first job was with the Xerox company, and at this company he learned more about business than he did in college. During his time with Xerox, he went door to door and was selling the products, and during this time he met his wife, Sherry. He got tired of his job with Xerox and moved on to a company where he sold kitchen items. 10 months later, he was even more tired of that job, so he threatened to leave. The company was really upset, so they offered him a high-paying salary, $75,000 a year, which is a lot in the 80s. He bought a nice condo in New York with his wife. He had a car that they bought him, but even after this, he still felt antsy, and he learned about a coffee shop in Seattle that was buying large amounts of coffee machines. So one day he decided to go to Seattle and investigate. Schultz went to Seattle and met with the founders of Starbucks, Jerry Baldwin and Gordon Bowker, and even after a whole year of trying to convince them to give him an interview, they still turned him down after the first one. Schultz was distraught and called back the next day saying, "You're making a terrible mistake." The original founders didn't like his zesty enthusiasm, and they thought that he was going to change the company into something it wasn't. The original Starbucks didn't want to expand. They wanted to be a small couple of stores in Seattle where they just sold coffee and educated its customers about it. But Schultz wanted to expand it and make it into a huge experience and a brand image. Howard Schultz went to Milan, Italy, and this is where he discovered what the true coffee experience was supposed to be. He loved how the Italians could balance their work and play, and on every street corner in Italy there was a coffee shop where the coffee makers knew their customers' names, they could relax in the store, and they socialized around coffee. Schultz wanted to bring this back to Starbucks, and when he introduced it to the original owners, they hated the idea. They said it wasn't the values that Starbucks was founded upon. So Schultz decided that he only had one option, and that was to open up his own coffee shop. He named it Il Giornale, and left Starbucks, opened it up. It was doing quite successful. But then one day, Schultz heard some rumors that the original founders of Starbucks were going to be selling everything. The name of Starbucks, the roasting plant, and Schultz knew that he had to get in there and buy them out, and he did that. August 18th, 1987 was the day that the modern Starbucks was born. Howard Schultz was now the owner, and he's going to begin transforming Starbucks. He combined the two elements of Il Giornale and Starbucks. They combined the logos, they changed the browns to the greens, they made the coffee shops more of a relaxing atmosphere with chairs and music, and every Starbucks now had an espresso machine where they could sell the coffees that the Italians loved. Their first goal was to open 125 stores in 5 years. The first areas that they went to were Chicago and Vancouver. They had some trouble in Chicago because they decided to open in the dreaded cold winter, and no one would venture down to the stores because it was too cold. It wasn't until 1990 that Chicago finally started loving the brand of Starbucks. And it also wasn't until 1990 that Starbucks finally started to make profits. Over the years, Starbucks just transformed. They went into the ice cream business with Dreyer's ice cream and started selling the coffee-flavored ice cream. They made the world-famous Frappuccino and started selling it in the bottles in grocery stores. They also partnered with different activist groups and foundations like CARE, who are socially responsible. They started producing CDs of the music that they would play in their stores. They offered non-fat milk, and they even partnered with United Airlines to offer better coffee. Howard Schultz says that to be a good company, you always have to focus on trends and move with the changes. Starbucks is centered around good quality, care for its customers and employees, value, and just focusing on becoming a great brand that everyone knows. I would recommend this book to anyone because Howard Schultz is a great CEO. He rarely spoke about numbers and profits in his novel, but instead told people why they should care about their employees and how that makes a good business.